Hi again. So last time we talked about the reasons people look for a financial plan or financial planner, which is a little bit different than a financial advisor or somebody who can make comments about their actual investments. While important, having been in the industry with enough time and done hundreds and hundreds of financial plans for households, your actual investments are probably much better off than you think. And they don't have as much of a swing on your certainty of success in achieving your goals that you might think. Important, but on the margins, there are other key decisions in your life that matter more. That's where financial planning comes into play, where we can talk about all the areas of your financial life, including insurance, taxes, investments, retirement planning, goals, estate planning. And you might think, whoa, 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 I'm just your average everyday employee. I'm not sure all those apply to me. Interesting enough, they probably do. And if you think that they are two steps forward, you'll be in a much better position handling them when they're simpler. Because as your wealth grows, which is likely to over your lifetime in the US and other places, you may find you want some information about these things. For instance, have you ever read your pay stub? Don't worry, don't worry. I'm not going to tell anyone if you have not read your pay stub lately, or even if you don't know how to access it. Certainly, people used to get their pay stubs in the mail, and sometimes they still do. Some people get an actual check, some people get paid 1099, W 2, lots of terms. But if you're just a standard worker with your taxes withheld, you'll find that your pay stub has a lot of information in there, and it's important to check it out. I have several anecdotes, such as in college, I was working as a hostess at a restaurant. And because I had tracked all of my hours, I could reflect back on my pay stubs and find that I was actually being underpaid. Given that, it's really important to consider the areas of your financial life. Pay stub, insurance, probably have auto insurance if you drive a vehicle. Even those two documents have approachable information that you can become straightforwardly knowledgeable about. So, how do people even find financial advice as it is? Interesting enough, most people do have a background in finance, not finance in the traditional capital F. I went to school for it, but we all have our money cultural backgrounds, right? We came from parents and households or families or any combination of people who raised us, and we were exposed to different messages about money. It wasn't even our choice. If your parents fought about money, that's going to be impactful to you as a grown up and how you deal with money. Additionally, we have cultural influences, right? We watch TV. I know a popular show in the 90s when I was a kid was watch or teenager kid was watching Saved by the Bell. And there's some elements to that, right? About like certain clothing styles, trends, actions, things to do, going to a place to buy discretionary things. Um, those are cultural messages. And there's plenty more. Even the great religions of the world have, tithing as part of it, if that's an influence for you. So we get financial advice from a whole lot of different places. It's important to know we already come equipped with our own biases about money and our finances. And so when we're looking for financial advice, we talked about the reasons in the last video, right? There's either confirmation we're doing the right things or a triggering event, specific question in life that is important to us to have answered. Certainly because we have advice already, but it feels incomplete or inefficient, not sufficient. It's not enough. Or the last one, which is we feel pretty darn stuck. And I've seen a lot of stuck situations and I've been stuck before. And I think it's good to think through life that there may be one or two of those events in your life, if not more, of stuckness. And it'd be nice to know you can rely on financial advice to get you through. So the first area is certainly I like to work my way up on the expense scale, free blogs and online content. And while there's a wide range of exceptional resources, the downside is that there's also questionable or misleading resources. I mean, if you've seen some of the blogs in the personal finance space, some of them are just top notch. Mr. Money Mustache, or J.L. Collins, NH. I think he might just be J.L. Collins now. Paula Pant from Afford Anything, So Money from Farnoosh Torabi. Even back in the TV times when we were actually watching cable television, Ask Susie, Susie Orman. Um, I remember David Bach, he was my special favorite. And this was all free, readily available content and still is today. It's amazing. But how do you filter, right? There's just so much. How do you know what you're doing is right? Um, so that's like the first, certainly level. The next level, books. Now, books do come with a small fee, potentially. There's a library, there's audiobooks, on and on and on. They can lack the accountability of working with somebody else. So they can be super helpful if you do the work. But each book does have its own style and philosophy, so it might not match yours. So books just as readily available, but maybe less so than the devices we hold in our hands every day. But certainly the price is right for the most part. And if you do the work, they can work. However, they seem to lack some accountability unless you work with a buddy on it, potentially, or their style just doesn't match yours. One in particular, Dave Ramsey, I think applies to most Americans by the numbers and statistically where people's incomes are. But I don't think that it applies to everybody. His 10 baby steps, for instance. Whereas something like David Bach might be overly complicated, but I think the work he does in, how to really afford your retirement or finish rich, particularly for individual households rather than couples, I think that's spot on. So good places to start. The next, of course, is family and friends in conversation. It's good because your trusted relationships, generally speaking, will give you trusted advice. The price is certainly right for most people, but the downside is that there can be a stigma about being honest about money with family and friends. How many people tell their friends and family how much they make? I mean, it's certainly not everyone. And maybe things have changed over the past few decades, but certainly was a taboo topic. So it's hard to be frank and have conversations you need. Also, it can be difficult in family relationships or friend relationships to get a very judgment-free accountability. So that's the next step. I mean, maybe it's doesn't have a financial cost like books or going online, or be similar to going online, but it can come with some other trade-offs. So then the next level up, maybe it's from family or friends, coworkers, or more notably, people you admire and how they deal with money and finance would be an actual referral to a financial advisor. Now, this comes at a much higher cost, and it's difficult to know if you're going to find a reliable match. So, you can certainly contact and usually good advisors and planners, and they're grouped together but different. And probably in another video I can break it out. But they can all have different specialties. Some might not all have comprehensive financial planning available, which really gives a context and robustness to any advice. Like I said, investing is important, but it's just a small part of your success. Um, I I can compare it to exercise and diet and fitness culture. You know, working with an investment advisor is similar to hiring a trainer at the gym. Comes at an expense, requires you to show up, but it will take you that extra 1 to 10%. But the other 90%, particularly as you age and are getting older, as I've noticed, as I've read, etc., is that more and more your lifestyle, your actual diet, your day-to-day food choices, sleep choices, stress choices matter more than the cost and time you put into the exercise if you had to equate the two. So working with a financial advisor for investments somewhat falls into that breakdown, whereas a financial planner covers the day-to-day money habits and complements that side of life, although they can do both. So there's also different certifications, licensing, and we'll go into all that as well. Remember, I want this to be straightforward. Start with the blogs and free content. Pick up a book here and there. Ask your family and friends. Maybe get a referral to other financial advisors to meet strictly for a complimentary consultation. You'll also find that several won't even take an initial meeting because you'll have to have a certain amount of assets or money you've saved, maybe in a retirement account, maybe not. that they can invest for you, because that's how a lot of advisors make their money, investing your money and charging you a fee of your money for that. And again, in another video, I will go over formulas for calculating your fees and why it's important to know. So then another thing is just marketing. I'm sure you've seen a YouTube video. I'm sure you hear the big box labels, the Morgan Stanleys, Edward Jones, even Charles Schwab. Everybody has options these days for where to go for financial advice. But again, huge range of subpar to good, suitability, fiduciary, lots of big terms out there. Whether you feel ready, certainly a complimentary or free, no charge consultation is what you're looking for there as well. But again, your asset level might not meet their minimums. And even if it does, do you feel like you're getting what you need out of the engagement? How do you even know? So that's a lot of the context there. And, ultimately, there's other online resources that will talk specifically. I think looking at NAPFA, National Association for Professional Financial Advisors, fee only advisors, excuse me. XY Planning is a good one. And the CFP, which is the Certified Financial Planning Credential, their website has a find an advisor tool by zip code. And those can be extremely robust search engines to find what you're looking for locally. I'll say on the back end, there is a cost to an advisor to be on each and every one of these sites. It does cost a planner or advisor money and credentials to be there. That's why they're trusted. So keep that in mind as well. I mean, they're paying for your attention and eyeballs. However, it's an incredibly in-market match. Before deciding for any advisor to manage your funds and investments, seek first the effort into a formal comprehensive financial plan to have created, because it's going to govern the choices that you make, right? You need 90% of that work on your diet, fitness, lifestyle, 90% of your work on your financial plan, and 10% of the work potentially on your investments. And then look for a fee-only advisor or fee-only financial planner who holds a certificate in financial planning called a CFP, and that it is active. So fee-only, fiduciary, CFP, those are some big buzzwords. Fee-only means the fee that you are charged is the fee you are charged. That planner or advisor does not make additional money selling other products. There's no commission for selling one product over the other. They might not get a commission on. And if that's the case, it has to be explicitly disclosed, told to you, disclosed, told to you that that's how they're making their fee. They can also charge by an engagement or by hour. And a fiduciary is someone who has to put your interests above the business themselves. So if, for instance, you have a 401k that you put maybe $15,000 in a decade ago and haven't touched it since, as an advisor who makes money managing other people's assets and charging a fee for it, I would say, hey, why don't you roll that out, call them to issue a check since you no longer work at that company, and open an IRA, and I will invest those funds for you and we'll help you reach your goals. That can be a solution, but it is not complete. The complete answer is if you have an existing 401k or 403b through your current employer, it's worth taking a look and comparing between rolling the previous 401k into the plan you already have now, regardless of if you're participating or not yet, or different scenario, rolling it out into an IRA, which you could manage independently and do all the work for, and I can help advise on that, or I can open it for you and I can invest it for you. An answer that is single, saying the answer or recommendation is for you to roll this into an IRA so I can manage it and assess a fee and you get my advice ongoing, while desirable for both of us in many ways, is not complete. So being a fiduciary is outlining the client's best interest, as well as trade-offs and risks. And be careful with references for other clients in their practice. These clients always have a bias to the positive experience they've had. I don't think I would want to refer someone in my client base to as a referral saying, hey, this is the type of work I do and how great of an experience it is. If they're going to give a negative review to a new client, I mean, that's just not really smart practice or business. I'm sure it can happen, but certainly in my ideal situation, I'd rather be giving my best clients, my biggest enthusiasts, to go ahead and give me a good referral to somebody who is on the fence about whether to hire me or any planner for that matter. So I don't know. I don't know if asking for references is the right call, particularly because each household is unique and different. So if you have a very different situation or household than the referred households, it just might miss the mark. They might be having a positive experience with that planner or advisor, but you aren't, and or you won't because you have different issues and different things that you need. Hourly advice, honestly, from what I've seen, seems to fall flat. It's difficult to answer one financial life question without context, and context is provided through a formal, comprehensive financial plan. Um, that's what's so important, to start with a formal, comprehensive financial plan. Now, to get over the barrier of the cost, I think educating yourself beforehand is a great next step. And hopefully, I can put a course together that can walk anyone through it and using pretty sophisticated but doable tools to make their own financial plan. So, financial plan provides context to life's financial questions and situations and presents options to move forward. It is not prescriptive, it isn't listed on the outside of a pill bottle that you get when you have an infection and you need an antibiotic and take 2 of these and call me in the morning. It's not a prescription, it's really a direction. And so, the best way of looking at a financial plan is this is a snapshot in time that gives you a range of solutions or spending patterns, etc., that can help you better answer questions you have about your financial life. Am I going to retire ever? Yes or no? If no, how can I retire anytime soon? If I am going to retire, can I retire sooner? And what are the variables in order to do that? Are there gaping, risky situations in my life I need to tie up to prevent a loss of wealth due to those situations I have or risks that I have? It's called risk mitigation. So, all in all, lots of different ways to find financial advice. They each come with their benefits, advantages, if you will, and disadvantages, from cost as well as just the wide range of advice out there, as well as finding the right fit for your situation. And the places to start would be, looking online or in books or through referrals or some of these websites that list out the financial planners in the industry.